Good morning, good day. You're listening to Breath Play Happy Hour. Our intention is for you to learn and practice how the breath can guide you to wake up, let go, and shift your success and happiness in life, love, business, sports, and beyond. I'm your host, Roberto Suarez, better known as El Happy Coach. And before we get going, let's take a 3 deep breaths in the nose for 2 or 3 seconds, and then we exhale through the mouth. So here we go. Inhale, hold, relax, let go through the mouth. Inhale, hold, relax, let go. One more. Inhale, exhale. So today my guest is Brian K.M. Lai. He's a breathwork coach from Australia, currently based in Hong Kong, China. His mission is to help spread the importance and benefits of conscious breathing to Hong Kong and the rest of Asia. He has trained directly with Wim Hof, the Iceman, Patrick McKeown, Oxygen Advantage, Stig Severinsen, world's greatest free diver, Kasper Van Der Muelen, Biohacking Breathwork, and Dan Brulé, our breath coach, and to Tony Robbins and the Navy SEALs. I met Brian in Mexico, where we trained together for about a month, and we want to welcome him to the Breath Play Happy Hour. Brian, I'm so glad you're here today.
Thanks for having me, Roberto. El Happy Coach.
These are the young guys that are making the world shift through the breath. So, Brian, how did you get into into breath work? And tell us a little, your short story on it. By the way, I love the picture behind you.
Andrew Jones. But yeah, how I got into breath work was really by accident. It was I was just searching for an answer for some health issues, mental health issues, and health issues that I was dealing with myself, which eventually led me to meditation, Vipassana meditation, a 10-day retreat, which was an absolute game changer for me. However, it's not that. And then eventually it led me to the Wim Hof method by accident. And when I found out about the Wim Hof method and I started, doing my research and seeing what this guy could do, everything that he was talking about, everything that this guy could do it just completely resonated with me, becoming a stronger, happier person. I grew up a pretty insecure kid, pretty shy. I wasn't really maximizing my potential, when I was young. And so this just really just kind of sparked something. And after that, I was just like, I have to learn from this guy. I have to learn from, I'll travel to the ends of the world to learn from this dude. And luckily for me, I was able to learn from him in 2016 down in Australia. And during my first training with Wim it was just an absolute just game changer. It just blew my mind what was possible, with the breath, what the breath could unlock within, not just a guy like Wim Hof, but just an average guy like me.
Mm-hmm.
And after just experiencing that, and then also seeing the changes and the shifts in all the other people around during that first retreat, which was a 7-day retreat, it was just an absolute game changer. There's specifically like a few people there that I remember. I remember everyone there, but there was a girl there. There's like a pretty little Indian girl there called Pritika, and she was going through some pretty dark times, and she was going through depression, really bad, suicidal thoughts all the time. And, we had all these other people there too that were dealing with some pretty challenging, pretty rough things that made the things in my life seem like a walk in the park.
Yeah.
The massive change within these people, and not just within these people, but within myself. And after that that's when I decided that I would like to pursue and learn a bit more and go a bit deeper into breath work. And a couple of years later, training with Wim, I became one of the first instructors, the first batch of instructors out of Australia. And I think I was the first one in Asia, I believe.
Wow.
Not 100% on that, but after that, I just continued my journey on the breath and wanted to learn from as many other masters in this world as possible. And then after learning, training all these people, I've been just teaching, spreading in Hong Kong.
And when you talk about like the changes, how did how does the breath, like for people that never done breath work, right, and might have all this problem, how does the breath, right, through your experience, support those people to maybe release, suicidal thoughts, or like, stress, or, the fears that people have to be able to do something, maybe we can explain, how that, how does the breath work, like to support somebody, or maybe,
Oh, I mean, the breath is so versatile. I mean, you know even better out of everyone here. There's really so many different angles and so many different paths and goals that you can take with the breath.
Mhm.
Just simple things like just controlling or influencing things like your nervous system, depression, anxiety, stress, things like that, all the way to the biochemistry of breath work, where things like carbon dioxide tolerance to help you build more performance in sports and just daily life. A deep part of your system where you begin to release trauma and blockages and things like that. So breathwork can really hit these issues from like several different angles, and different levels. So what I'm kind of more focusing on these days in terms of what I'm teaching over in Hong Kong, our inner state, how our breath relates to our nervous system. Hey, that comes from my nervous system. And the breath, is one of the quickest access points that we have into that. A lot of people these days, they're going, they're experiencing like anxiety and stress and depression and stuff like that. And I think in Hong Kong, I don't know how it is in America, or, but in Hong Kong, I believe study maybe 2 years ago, there's a study that some sort of anxiety, excessive, maybe depression or something like that. And I believe it was like 1 in 4 kids around, I think it was like 15 or 16 years old, had suicidal thoughts, and it's absolutely insane that this is now the norm, it's common, but it's definitely not, it shouldn't be in Hong Kong, be able to basically navigate and steer their state by controlling their nervous system through the way they breathe. So I think in Hong Kong, a lot of people in Hong Kong, because it's such a it's like the financial hub of Asia, so it's like New York, but in Asia. So it's just go, 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 and everyone's just, in that grind, everyone's just hustling.
Yeah.
And you can just feel it. You can feel the whole city is in like a stress state. It's in a sympathetic state,
Mm-hmm.
and my mission, what my role is to really just try to help these people understand that using powerful tools, simple tools like, for example, the breath, you can begin to really tap into your nervous system, which controls your state, which controls how you respond and how you are, and how you are to the rest of the world. So I believe that if everyone had that tool, if everyone had those tools to be able to shift their state, whenever they feel like, whenever they need to, or at least blunt the force or the impact of stress or anxiety or depression, all the things, chronic pain, all the things that are tools to help them manage it in just a tiny bit. I think on a collective scale in Asia and Hong Kong, I think it would make a massive impact, a huge impact. Or at least I want to kickstart that. I want to be the catalyst for that.
Yeah, that, what you're saying there, it's so powerful. That's the same, you can see that in the US, everywhere, because it's the stress of making things happen, be able to make money, and all that kind of stuff, with and then
Mm.
with social media trying to be a certain way, like I want to be like this person, right? It's like, but and I get the thing about the breath.
Mm.
What I get out of the breath, what I was able, what I think the breath really helps is being aware of yourself. First becoming, if you can become aware of the breath, you can become aware of what's going on in your body, in
Mm.
your mind, in your nervous
Mm.
system, in your surroundings, and then using
Yeah,
the,
like one,
go ahead, go
yeah,
ahead.
like 100%. Like there's something, I don't know if you saw a study recently where they were talking about panic attacks.
Yeah,
And a lot of people that have panic attacks or anxiety attacks, especially in 2020, with COVID situation, with the
COVID.
pandemic, I'm sure there's a lot of people in this world right now that are going through anxiety or stress or depression, or maybe even suicidal thoughts because of everything that's happening with the lockdowns and the restrictions and all the the fear that's getting pumped in the media and stuff. But in this study, they were saying that most people usually feel like that comes out of nowhere. It just pops out of nowhere. But as going upon what you were saying, when you begin to develop awareness towards your body, your system, then it's that study, that research showed that up to an hour, so up to 1 hour before that person experiences like a panic attack or an anxiety attack, that there's already physiological signs that
Mm,
begin to show.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
if if you were aware of that, if you've been training your breath and those kind of things, and if you were aware of those, those symptoms or those little signals that your physiology was already sending you, you could have either blunted the impact of that anxiety attack or whatever attack, or even averted the issue completely.
Hmm.
So I feel like it's the example like we give in my classes is think about like a mechanic, like a master mechanic, like me,
Yeah.
I'm an idiot, right? And I look at a car, and
Yeah, yeah.
I see a car, and does the car turn on, turn off? That's really all I know,
Me
but like a
too.
master mechanic, because they've been working with a car for so long, they can maybe just even turn the engine on and just listen to the engine run, or just small things like that. They can be able to start to pick up what's wrong with that car. We as human beings, we need to begin to develop the same sort of awareness towards our own mind and body system. And so you're exactly right. One of the biggest things, I think one of the things that our teacher Dan teaches us, is that a big part of breath work that a lot of people, and even a lot of breathwork coaches, they neglect, is the breath awareness side of
Hmm.
breath work. It's not just breathing techniques, it's not just breathing patterns and stuff like that, but also the breath awareness. And to me, I feel like in my personal breathwork journey, that has probably been the key. It's probably been the most important part of breathwork, is developing that awareness. So even now, I'm observing my breath.
Yeah.
I'm observing my breath all the time, because it's tied to your breath is tied to your state. How you are. If you're calm, your breathing's going to be calm. If you're stressed, your breathing's going to be stressed. So if you can begin to be really hyper aware, or build a level of awareness towards your breathing patterns, you can begin to monitor. And you can even, for me, I used to battle with pretty bad anxiety. But because I've developed so much awareness towards my body, as soon as I feel a tiny bit of anxiety begin to creep up, I just begin to slow my breathing down, and I just begin to shift my nervous system, from that stress sympathetic state over to the calmer parasympathetic state through my breath. And, and I've been, I was suffering from anxiety for a good 6-7 years back in Australia. I didn't even know it was anxiety back then, but it
Yeah.
was really bad. And in hindsight, I now recognize it was anxiety. But, once I realized what the breath can do, how the breath can begin to steer, navigate you between, your stress response and your calm response in your nervous system. Once I realized that and I started practicing it, it fixed and cured my anxiety like straight away, like a light switch. It wasn't gradual. It was literally like an on and off switch. And that's one of the things I really try to push and really try to help people in Hong Kong, and not just the kids, but a lot of people are experiencing anxiety and stress and stuff like that. And I myself know all too well through my experience how crippling that can be towards someone's life.
Yeah. So, and so coming from that experience, it's it supports you in being a better breath worker and a teacher because you're experience it, and that's why you're so powerful. One of the things that's happening that I just saw in a 60 Minutes show, Brian, is what's happening with the pandemic. People that have hundreds of thousands of people that have gone through it. There's studies now being made where there's an effect of huge anxiety problems because they all of a sudden they're walking and they're out of breath and they start panicking and they're trying to study to see what's going on because it's not a temporary thing that all of a sudden you come out of it. It's it was so powerful in your body that the nervous system has been affected, your mind has been affected, your heart rate has been affected. So people don't feel the right way, so they're panicking. So that I think there's an opportunity. I just had a friend call me whose brother was a doctor, and he spent 6 months with a ventilator, and they gave him 6% chance of living, and he took it on for him to live, and he's living, and now he's gone through therapy and he's coming back alive, but he goes he takes 5 steps and he's out of breath. So he called me to get some breathing techniques, right, to support his brother, and he's into the mental health world, and he says, Roberto, there's a huge opportunity to support people through breath work. All these people are going through. Imagine just regular people that have panic attack. Imagine if you went through that experience, and all of a sudden you start getting this feeling that it's going to come back or whatever. How that triggers, So I think we're in the right place at the right time to support people. But it's amazing how the breath, being able to be aware, relax, and control the breath to shift, your nervous system or your physical. I what it did for me in the awareness. We hear this saying, "Be here now, live in the present." To be able to tap into your breath helps you become present and quiet your mind enough to not be somewhere in the future, right? Worrying about something or in the past.
Yeah.
So the more you can be here in your body, be present now, the more present you can be to your body, but also to people around you. And that's what I love about what you're doing, for your community and for your country and for everything you're doing there. It's so awesome. Uh,
Yeah, man,
I,
like 100%. Yeah, like I stumbled on this really by accident. Like, I mean, there's a little bit of a backstory in terms of how I started teaching in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And I don't share this too often, but you know, you're my brother, I'll share it with you, man. So, um, yeah, like after like, I hate, I hate public speaking. I hate being in front of people. I grew up being in front of people was probably my biggest fear. You know, it was my absolute biggest fear. You know, maybe
Uh,
maybe second to cockroaches, but you know, pretty. It was up there. It was definitely up there. And so after I got certified by Wim Hof to become an instructor, you know, which happened on my birthday actually, my 30th birthday, I believe, 29th or 30th birthday, and uh, but like a year, like a year had gone past after I got certified, and I wasn't a citizen stuff. So, you know, I have my supplement business and stuff that I work on, Alpha Dynamics, the mushroom stuff. But you know, I started giving myself excuses, you know, to not teach. You know,
mm,
but deep down, I knew it was really fear. It was my own fear of facing my own fear of public speaking and just being in front of people, you know, because you know I always grew up feeling not good enough, or you know all these kind of things, you know, and so I had given up at that point in time. I'd given up on becoming a teacher
ah,
in breathwork, you know, and I was just going to practice it for myself, and that was it. And that was when I was in Australia in 20, I can't remember when, 2017, 2018. And I flew back to Hong Kong. Um, and what happened was I landed in Hong Kong at nighttime. And then the next morning, the next day, I went to have lunch just to catch up with a few family members. And after lunch, as I was walking back from lunch to back to my home, I had to go through a shopping mall in Hong Kong, and as I was walking through the shopping mall, a woman jumped off the top, and she landed.
oh
She
my God.
landed like maybe probably like 10 meters, 15 meters away from me, and I pretty much saw the whole thing, you know. So
Oh my God.
uh, so it was obviously a bit traumatizing.
Yeah, oh my
Um,
God.
but yeah, I mean, after a couple of weeks, you know, the breathing helped. The breathing really helped me kind of just manage the trauma, because every time I closed my eyes, I would see the image of her body, you know, and it
Hmm.
was, you know, it was keeping me up at night. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even go back to that same shopping mall. I would walk all the way around it, you know, just to
Yeah.
get groceries or whatever. But one day after 2 weeks, you know, I just told myself that I can't let something like this, you know, affect me this much, you know. So I went back to, I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but I decided to really face it head on, and I went back to where she landed, you
Yeah.
know. I literally stood in that spot where she landed, and I just breathed. I just breathed, you know. I
Wow.
just I just let all the emotions and everything, whatever, I just let it through me, and I just breathed. I just kept breathing it out, you know. And you know, at that time I felt like I processed it. I processed that thing. But you know, 2 years later when I was doing my ayahuasca ceremony, that thing came back up. So
Oh,
obviously
yeah.
I hadn't processed it fully yet. But
Yeah.
that's a different story. But
Yeah.
after that experience, because the whole thing about how Wim Hof started his journey was because his wife committed suicide.
Oh
His
my.
wife jumped into the building because she was suffering from, you know, schizophrenia or mental health issues,
Wow.
and so the whole Wim Hof method, it kind of, the catalyst for the Wim Hof method was rooted in mental health,
Mm,
in particular his wife, you know, jumping
mm.
off the top and landing, and you know, obviously, so I kind of just, I saw that sign, I saw that event that happened to
Yeah.
me. It was obviously very unfortunate, but I just took, at the time I was rereading The Alchemist, you know, and The Alchemist is always talking about looking for signs and
Sad.
omens and you know, to me, you know, whether it is or not, but to me, I took that event as an omen, as a sign to, I've learned something, a tool that I can use to help, other people suffering from mental health.
Hmm.
And I just saw that as a sign I got to get out there and start sharing what I've learned, what I've trained. And straight after that happened, I mean, once I realized that, I just really went full force and just went 100%, guns blazing, in Hong Kong, and just trying to spread breathwork as much as I can. So that's pretty much how my breathwork journey kind of started in terms of as a coach in Hong Kong.
Wow.
Um,
Wow,
yeah,
what a God, thank you for sharing that story. That's like powerful. Powerful stuff. Like going, what you did going there, going back and breathing through it, it's like it's what we say when you're breathing, right? Like to
mm,
really relax into the intensity of whatever is showing up in your body so you can breathe through it
yeah,
and be comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? And you were able to just go into that fear,
mm,
right? And breathe through it in that spot. That was powerful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I don't even know why I did that, but I just felt like I had to really just face it front on, like head
Yeah.
on, and that was the way I came up with. And I think it worked, but not fully,
Yeah,
as I
yeah, no,
told you.
yeah, no, but now it worked. It worked, But it's
Yeah,
always
yeah, yeah.
there's always more. But like what I try to tell people, and that's just such a perfect example, right? That you did. It's like the breakthrough in your life comes when you do stuff that you resist, when
Hmm.
you break through it. So like people don't want to breathe. I don't want to breathe, right? But if you can go breathe, you're going to have a breakthrough, right? So
Hmm.
like like you don't want to like you really resist talking in front of people, right? So if you can step and go and relax and go for it, you might mess up and all that kind of stuff, but eventually you're going to be a powerful speaker because you break through it. And the breath can help you do all that, So
For
thank,
sure, for sure.
thank,
It was 100% to do with the breath in terms of where I'm at now. I mean, there's not too many people in Hong Kong teaching breath work, so I would say I'm probably the main guy right now teaching it, like
wow.
trying to spread it in Hong Kong right now. And it's just, yeah, the breath is just such a powerful, powerful tool. And when I started doing it, like that whole event that happened that caused me to kick my ass to get to start doing this stuff, like I remember the first, probably, I would say probably the first, it took me probably about 100 times, probably teaching, like going out teaching 100 times before I got rid of that fear of public speaking.
Mhm.
And one day I just realized that I wasn't scared anymore, going
Wow.
up there and
Yeah, yeah,
talking for everyone. But it took about a year. It actually took about a year of constantly teaching, constantly. But like if anyone's listening that came to my first workshops, my first classes, apparently it wasn't that bad, but to me, I remember it was horrible. Like I remember I was stressing out. I was sweating. I was like drenched. My armpits were drenched. I was
That's,
like and it was just waterworks, and I couldn't stop the sweating because I was so nervous. And I'm giving a presentation in front of like 10, 20 people, and I'm just absolutely soaked in my own sweat.
yeah, yeah.
And it was, yeah, it was rough the first year I was teaching. But what I realized, the kind of the pivot, the change, the kind of the tipping point for that was, I realized at one stage where when I was teaching, when I was up there presenting to everyone, the
Mhm.
reason why I was so nervous was because I wasn't breathing. I was actually holding my breath. I was shallow breathing because the fear and the stress took over, and I was not practicing what I was preaching, you know. And
Ah,
as soon as I realized, Dan's always saying, don't hold your breath.
yeah.
When you hold your breath, all that energy accumulates and it blows up into something else. And that's exactly what was happening. And as soon as I realized that, I started to breathe, really be conscious of my breathing while I was presenting. And from there, it was just a game changer. I was able to manage my emotions, manage my stress, my fear, a lot better. You know, obviously I still had the fear, but I was able to manage it bit by bit by bit. And over time, over like a year, I was able to just get rid of my fear. And to be honest, it's a fear of mine that I never ever thought I would get over. You know, it was, you know, I thought it would be a fear that I would take to my grave.
Yeah.
But you know, it's funny how things turn out, you know.
So let me ask a couple questions. One is, how many people are you already help heal, more or less, in Hong Kong? Like,
Um,
like,
I I would say, I'm not quite sure, but I would say in terms of how many people I've guided through breath work,
mm,
that, and this is including, you know, festivals and classes and
yeah,
workshops and
yeah,
stuff. I would say since I started in Hong Kong in the last 3 years,
mm,
I would say I would say I'm probably approaching probably 1,000 people.
yeah.
I would say, yeah,
But
maybe more, maybe a bit more actually. I don't know, but somewhere around, I would say, yeah, about 1,000 or so so far.
yeah, but those are kind of like direct people, but those people have effect. You follow me? In other people.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
for sure.
it's really it starts helping, it spread and
Yeah,
starts opening up
yeah, yeah,
and
for sure. And that's what's happening in Hong Kong. Like I do very, very little marketing in Hong Kong, and usually it's from word of mouth. You know, usually it's
yeah,
from someone comes to a class and they experience they had the first breath work and they're like, wow, like that was what just happened, you know?
yeah,
And they just, you know, it's like some sort of awakening that they experience, and then they can't wait to tell all their friends, their family. So it's just as you said, it just kind of just spreads. Like I think Dan mentioned this before in Biasana, saying like once you begin to focus on the breath and start working with the breath, things begin to really move forward at a really fast pace. And I've definitely been feeling that in the last year. You know, despite the pandemic, breathwork is really, I think, you know, it's really just getting a name for itself. It's making a resurgence again.
oh yeah, and since everybody's getting into the internet and more, right? They're looking for things. It's unbelievable how fast it's expanding and all the
Yeah,
people
man.
out
And
there.
I remember you when I first met you in Mexico. I remember you didn't know how to use Instagram and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and now you're an expert at this, man.
I have this person in this Veronica in Spain that she's a master, she's doing but it's so good. And it took me, talking about fear, right? It took me like I told Dan when I interviewed him to do my happy hour, he goes, I had to breathe almost a whole year to start doing podcasts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I kept putting it away, like
Are you talking about you or you talking about Dan?
no, me.
Oh,
You
right,
know,
right, right.
like I go, Dan, you don't believe how many breaths I had to get this podcast going,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
because
Yeah,
of
exactly,
fear,
man. So yeah, you know exactly what I've been going through there.
and what I love about, how old are you? 30 something or like
36. Actually, turning
36?
37.
Unbelievable, like, all these young people being able to do what you're doing now through the
Yeah, yeah.
breath. It's totally amazing. I just turned 69, so I'm just an old guy that is breathing
Mm,
and making
mm,
things happen, right? But
mm.
so that's great. So let me add, you giving us a lot of information and all that. But if you were, can you give us maybe like a breath technique that that people can use, a simple technique that they can use? And then the other question I have for you is, what do you see? Like if you step out 10 years from now, right? Like on 2030, where do you think it's going to happen with the breath world, the breath work? Where do you see the world, 10 years from now?
10 years from now, I
Yeah.
think
So step 10 years and then look back.
I mean, with the way that the breath work is going now and all the research that's happening with breath work, and
Yeah.
I mean, all the, you know, all the world's top performers and, all these, influencers and celebrities are starting to get into breath work and stuff. I feel like it's going to really just blow up. You know, I think we're just, you know, obviously breathwork has been around for thousands of years, but you know, in this, it's coming into this new cycle in this modern era, and it's you know, I think we're at the very beginning of this wave,
Mm-hmm.
and I honestly don't think this wave is ever going to stop, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because there's just so much more research on it now with the breath,
Mm-hmm.
and they still don't fully understand it. I remember one of the scientists or that was studying the Wim Hof method, Dr. Mark Cohen in I think Melbourne University. He said that, you know, at least another 20 years before they even fully understand what the Wim Hof method does for the human body. So I think the breath is just it's one of those things that it's good. Like how big yoga is right now,
Yeah.
I think breath work will be at that level, you know,
Mm-hmm.
at that yoga, as popular as yoga, I think. So
Yeah.
I think it's great timing for us to be able to get into this whole thing before it really blows up into something incredible.
Yeah, and it's really like blowing up in terms, you know, with them they're doing, you know, like this. We're gonna be in a in a what do you call it when like in a group meeting with a breathing festival, you
Oh,
know,
that's right. Yeah,
everybody's
yeah,
going
yeah.
by talking about how we taking, you know, like you taking the breath into Hong Kong, and then, you know, me taking the breath into Cuba, right? And you,
Mm-hmm.
so like, you know, one of the things that I always talk about, that, you know, like the breath also can be used for like what we've been talking to, you know, deal with mental health and the body and the physical. But then there's
Mm-hmm.
the other side of the breath that Dan always talks about, and is where you can let the breath take you in a journey, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And be able to connect to that breath. And once you can break through that funnel of the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to go into, like I call it, being able to tap into your true self, into your spirit, into your consciousness, then everything heals from that space, you know?
Yeah.
And that's where I see, you know, like, you know, 10 years from now, where it's, I call it the re-evolution of consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where we're upgrading the consciousness level so we can
Yeah. Yeah.
communicate just like we're doing now, you
Yeah.
know?
It's like a software upgrade.
Yes, absolutely, exactly. You know, like, but the optimum, you know, software, you know, upgrade,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
where it's working, right? And it's working faster, quicker, you know, it's easy,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
people are always going to a higher thought instead of
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, being in survival, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
supporting each other to win. So that's kind of like what, you know, what I see, and that's what I love about what you're doing in you know, in Asia, and supporting all these people that you're doing with your experience, with your knowledge, because you're mastering all kinds of breaths, you know, like the biohack. Can you tell me a little more about biohacking? You know, what does that do? Like,
Yeah, yeah. That's Kasper Van Der Muelen, and
yeah,
Kasper is awesome. You know, shout out to Kasper if you're watching. But
yeah,
Kasper is I would say I think he was Wim Hof's kind of top guy at the very
mm,
beginning. And he was the one that ultimately trained. He was pretty much the guy that trained all the other instructors in the Wim Hof method. But from there, since then he's got so much more experience, you know, doing other forms of, you know, biohacking and breath work and stuff like that. And the beautiful thing about what Casper does is he tries to really just demystify breath work and really just try to break it all down to the fundamentals, the core kind of key concepts, you know,
mm,
because breath work has been out for so long, you know, just there's all these different modalities of
that's
breath work out there, and people, you know, just like anything else in life, you know, with Trump and Biden and so, people kind of, they side and they you know, they say this technique is better than that
but
technique
then
and
it,
this and that. whereas with Casper is just trying to strip all that away and just focus on the fundamentals. And so what biohacking breathwork is, which is kind of what Casper teaches, is it's more focused on, and which is kind of more what I'm doing right now, is it's just how the breath influences your nervous system, and from there how it influences your state. Okay, and that's so that's really what, in terms of learning from biohacking breathwork at Casper, that's kind of what we've been focusing on. It all kind of circles the same hole, to be honest. The Wim Hof method, Dan Brulé, all these kind of things. It's all the breath. It's all, it's just kind of looking at it from different angles. And, for me personally, I'm more of a, I love martial arts. I love sports. I love, just performance and stuff like that. So, I guess you got to find something that resonates with you, and what resonates with me is the performance side of breath work, just to help me in my martial arts, in my sports and so on. And of course, mental health as well. So, but so that's what the biohacking breath work is, tapping into the nervous system through the breath.
Oh, thank you for that. Okay, so is there anything else? Are you writing a book, or is there something special that you're doing that you want people to know about what you're up to, or besides that
No,
like you're shifting the whole, Asia world through the breath. That's pretty big enough.
Yeah, I think for now I'm going to be focusing on that. I'm writing a book. I feel like a lot of people these days are writing books on breathwork now. So, maybe in the future, like, I honestly don't think I have learnt enough to offer anything new in terms of the breathwork world. So I don't think I'm in that place yet. So until I'm able to, figure something, like develop something that's a bit more unique, or something that I can add, like something new I can add to the breathwork world, I don't think I'll write a book or anything like that. But I'm just, my mission really is to, kind of take away the stigma and the woo-woo from breathwork, demystify it, and just make it accessible to everyone, and really just continue just trying to get it out there as much as I can to Asia and Hong Kong, and and hopefully the rest of the world one day. But right
Yeah,
now, focus on Asia.
absolutely. So is there one breath like technique that you can tell the listeners
Yeah,
that can
sure.
help them?
Um, yeah. Well, this is a kind of little technique that I kind of made up. It's kind of a combination of a couple of different breathing techniques. So what I've done is I've taken a breathing technique from Casper, which is called the one breath break. And that's an awesome technique. You can look that up. And then I've combined that with box breathing.
Mm.
Okay, so it's a combination of Casper's one breath break and box breathing together. So what I do is, box breathing, it's in
Yes.
for 4, hold, exhale for 4, hold for 4. And then, so what we do is, on the inhale, you take a nice deep breath in through the nose, as deep as you can, fill your lungs up, and then you hold your breath for 4 seconds. Okay, and then on the exhale, you let the breath just explode through the mouth. You just let it kind of fade out and deflate, and then you hold your breath again. So it's kind of like the one breath break from Casper, but in kind of the cadence of box breathing. Okay, so I mean, if I do it one time now, it would
Yeah.
be, I'll take a breath from my nose for 4 seconds, hold it, and out through the mouth, and then hold, and that's 1 round. And then you just repeat that, 4
Yeah.
rounds, 6 rounds. So it's nothing new. I've just really combined a couple of techniques that I love myself and
Yeah.
combined it together.
That's great. Thank you for that. So so how can people get hold of you? What's the easiest way?
Yeah, I mean, probably Instagram. Instagram is probably where I'm most active these days, and so my Instagram handle is Primal Breathwork, Primal Breathwork. Otherwise, you can visit my website, primalbw.com, but I'm a bit slack and be lazy with that, and it's not the most up to date. So yeah, keep probably Instagram. I would say Instagram.
Okay, great. So, so please, so to the audience out there, please share this episode with somebody that might benefit from listening to Brian's wisdom, and I want to thank everybody for listening, and for you, Brian, for being here today. And lastly, I want to tell the listeners, what was your biggest learning from this episode? Take a moment and share with us, maybe in Facebook or in Instagram, right? We always want to hear from you, and we welcome any feedback or suggestions on how we can make this podcast even more awesome for you. So, Brian, thank you again. I love you, man. Keep doing
Thank
what
you,
you're
man.
doing. We'll see you, next time. And
Yeah, we'll be at the breathing festival together, right? We're
yeah,
doing the same segment.
yeah, absolutely. So, like I always end up, I always tell people breathe happy, live happy. Namaste. We'll
Yeah.
see you
Hey,
next
man. Like
time.
I've always, well, firstly, thanks for having me, dude. And I love you too, man. But I always say, honestly, like if when I get to your age, and if I'm half as happy, half as healthy as you, man, I'm good with that, man. So you honestly, man, you are inspiration to me. You're a role model. You're inspiration to me, and you know, I hopefully one day I'll be as cool as you, man.
Okay, thank you. Love you, man. See ya.
Awesome, dude. Thanks for
Okay,
running.
later.